What if everything you believe yourself to be is just a mask someone else gave you?
From the earliest days of your life, a blueprint begins to form. A name, habits, expected behaviors, ideals, goals. You grow up accepting them as your own. But one day, amid the noise of routines and the dust of conformity, a thought strikes like lightning.
Am I really living my own life?
You start to wonder, are your desires truly yours? Or were they shaped by advertising, by your parents' ambitions, by a teacher who once told you what you should become? You did what was right, not because it felt authentic, but because you feared disapproval, rejection, or isolation. The issue isn't that you followed someone else's rules. The real tragedy is that you never even noticed when you stopped listening to yourself. Carl Jung, one of the most profound explorers of the human psyche, never viewed normality as the goal. He wasn't interested in how well people fit into society. He wanted to understand the inner world. He believed that real life doesn't begin until a person confronts their own nature, not the version they present to the world, but the raw, unpolished truth buried beneath roles, titles, and expectations. But why do so few people ever arrive at that point? Why do most die never having met their real selves? Because the moment you're born, your soul is dressed in layers, a name, a culture, a script of what's acceptable. You're rewarded for fitting in and punished for stepping out of line. You adapt, you perform, and eventually you start to say, "I'm fine," when something inside you is quietly breaking. Look at Beethoven. As a child, he was groomed to become the next Mozart. He was beaten into perfection, forced to rehearse for hours. His life was programmed. But it wasn't until he lost his hearing, a catastrophe for any composer, that he truly became himself. His late symphonies, written in silence, weren't compromises. They were the voice of a soul that had broken free. How many times have you felt you couldn't be yourself? Think back to moments when you were open, vulnerable, only to be told, "Don't exaggerate, be realistic, stop being dramatic." These messages are bricks in the wall behind which your real self is buried. You begin hiding your doubts, your dreams, your fears. You create a version of yourself that's convenient for others. Jung called this mask the persona. But here's the danger. The mask starts to live on its own. You forget there was someone underneath it. You begin to believe that the mask is you. Take Winston Churchill. History remembers him as a bold leader and master orator, but few know that he was plagued by deep insecurity in his youth. His booming voice and iron-willed public image weren't signs of confidence. They were a shield against inner fragility. His persona saved an empire but nearly crushed the man inside. And then there's the other half of the picture, what Jung called the shadow, the parts of yourself you've rejected or buried because they're unacceptable, dangerous, or shameful. These are your fears, aggression, desires, ambition, and often your hidden talents. You can suppress the shadow, but it doesn't vanish. It leaks out in jealousy, in sudden anger, in passive-aggressive behavior. When someone's confidence annoys you, is it really them, or your own unclaimed strength poking at you? When you criticize someone's openness, is it because you've silenced your own truth? Jung believed that what we refuse to face doesn't disappear. It simply moves into the unconscious and manipulates us from the background. You don't have to believe it, just observe. Until you integrate your shadow, it will control your choices in silence. The path to your real self doesn't begin with motivation, it begins with honesty. And the first step is a question. What part of me am I afraid to admit exists? Why do you react so strongly to others? Maybe because they remind you of you. How often have you found yourself angry at someone without fully understanding why? How often do you feel irritated by someone's confidence, spontaneity, or emotional openness, as if those traits hit a nerve deep inside you? Perhaps you're not reacting to them, but to something within you, a part you've buried long ago. Carl Jung called this projection When you encounter a quality you've rejected in yourself, but can't consciously accept, you begin to see it in others. What provokes you in someone else might be a reflection of the part of yourself you've denied. The shadow isn't evil. It's not a monster to defeat. It's simply the side of you that got pushed away, usually because it made others uncomfortable. Maybe you were told anger is bad, so you stopped showing it. Or that emotions are weakness, so you locked them up. Or that ambition is selfish, so you silenced your drive. But those traits didn't disappear. You just hid them. And now they live in your unconscious, acting out in the background. Director Stanley Kubrick once said that every person is not only what they show the world, but also what they hide. His films, The Shining, Eyes Wide Shut, A Clockwork Orange, weren't just stories. They were explorations of human shadow, repressed desires, fears, dark impulses. He didn't condemn them. He revealed them. Because only by seeing them could we reclaim control. Jung emphasized, repressed parts of the self don't go away. They find alternate roots. They show up in illness, anxiety, irritation, addictions, self-sabotage. Every time you say, "I don't know why I did that," it's your shadow speaking. But why do we fear it so much? Because facing your shadow isn't just uncomfortable. It's devastating to the ego's illusions. It means admitting you're not always kind, not always strong, not always right. It means dropping the fantasy of perfection. But in that raw truth lies the beginning of freedom. As long as you fear your shadow, it controls you. But the moment you face it, you reclaim your power. There's a lesser-known story about Charles Darwin. As he developed his theory of natural selection, he was tormented by internal conflict. He feared that his ideas would destroy the foundations of religious morality. In his letters, he confessed to a deep emotional battle. He felt like he was betraying everything familiar. But it was through this pain that he faced his shadow, the fear of rejection, the dread of societal exile, and chose to continue. His decision didn't just birth a theory, it transformed human understanding. The shadow doesn't only hold what's shameful, it holds power. Some suppress their aggression, but within it lies decisiveness. Others are shamed for their emotions, yet those feelings contain depth and empathy. Some hide their sexuality, and with it, their authenticity. Real growth doesn't come from removing flaws, but from realizing that beneath them are hidden strengths. You don't need to defeat your shadow, you need to communicate with it. Jung encouraged methods for this: dream work, symbol exploration, creative expression, meditation, honest journaling. Any form of inner dialogue is a step toward awareness. For example, if you constantly fear rejection, ask yourself, when did I first feel this way? You might remember a childhood moment, being unheard, feeling invisible. Back then, you made a silent agreement. I must hide who I am to be accepted. That belief is still alive today, shaping your relationships, career, choices. You're not chained to your past, but to break free from it, you must first recognize it. The ability to see your shadow is emotional maturity. It means stopping the blame game. It means owning your reactions, your pain, your actions. It's a path that takes courage, but it's also the only path to genuine freedom. Why do you keep reliving the same stories, even when you swear you'll change? You make promises to yourself. You won't fall for people who don't value you. You'll stop underpricing your work. You'll no longer let others manipulate you. And yet, time passes, and once again, you find yourself in the same dead ends. It's as if something inside you keeps replaying an old record. Carl Jung had a name for this phenomenon: archetypes. He believed that each of us carries within us ancient psychological blueprints, universal patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior inherited from our ancestors. These archetypes shape not only how we react to life, but the very life scenarios we find ourselves in. Think of the timeless stories we tell: the hero who faces trials, the seeker of truth, the rebel, the victim, the dark force to be conquered. These figures appear across myths, religions, literature, and cinema. Why? Because they reflect internal characters that live within every human psyche. You don't just watch these stories, you live them. Jung called this realm the collective unconscious, a deep layer of the psyche where universal images and instincts reside. These forces are not personal, yet they're constantly active inside you, especially when you live unconsciously. Take the hero archetype. It's not just about knights or warriors. It's the part of you that longs for meaning, craves growth, and seeks to rise above limitation. Every time you feel the urge to change your life, to step into something greater, that's your inner hero calling. But the hero never walks alone. He is always accompanied by the shadow, the obstacle to overcome. It might appear as fear, self-doubt, laziness, addiction, or an inner critic. In myths, the hero must slay a monster. In real life, the monster is often within. Consider Muhammad Ali, a legendary boxer, a powerful speaker, but inside a constant battle raged. He refused to fight in the Vietnam War and was stripped of his title. Branded a traitor, he lost everything at his peak. But he wasn't just fighting the government, he was confronting the archetypal shadow, fear of loss, the temptation to submit. He chose to be a hero not only in the ring, but in life. His internal battle became a symbol for millions. The problem is, most people don't realize which archetypes are active within them. Some unconsciously live in the victim archetype, always suffering, always finding reasons why it didn't work, always waiting for someone to save them. Others are caught in the rebel archetype, rejecting everything society offers, yet unclear about what they truly want. Some become trapped in the servant role, always helping others, silently hoping someone will finally notice their sacrifice. Jung didn't label archetypes as good or bad. The issue isn't the archetype, it's becoming its prisoner. Archetypes are powerful energies. When unconscious, they shape your destiny without your awareness. So what can you do? The first step is observation. Look at your life as if it were a film. What role are you playing? Hero, victim, mentor, seeker, rebel. Do the same patterns keep showing up in your relationships, conflicts, or decisions? What script are you living? The second step is disidentification. You are not the victim or the savior. These roles are not your identity, they are tools. The moment you become aware of the archetype playing out, you're no longer its puppet. You take the reins. The third step is rewriting the script. If you keep falling into toxic relationships, ask yourself, what role are you playing? Are you unconsciously seeking someone to validate your worth? Are you replaying a childhood wound? Awareness is the first step to change. You don't need to banish the archetypes, you need to integrate them. Inside you live the hero, the victim, the rebel, the guide, the seeker. Once you recognize them, you can choose who you wish to become, moment by moment, instead of being dragged along by unconscious patterns. Maybe you're not cold or weak. Maybe you just rejected your other half. Inside every person lives something opposite to their outer identity. Within every man, there is a hidden feminine force. Within every woman, a concealed masculine presence. This isn't about gender or biology. It's about the psyche, the balance of inner energies, and the deeper quest for wholeness. Carl Jung called these forces the Anima and animus. The Anima is the feminine archetype within the male unconscious. Intuition, sensitivity, empathy, receptivity, depth, reflection. The animus is the masculine archetype within the female unconscious. Logic, structure, willpower, assertiveness, analysis. Jung believed that only by engaging with this inner counterpart can a person reach true psychological completeness. But for centuries, society has trained us to suppress that other side. A man must be strong, composed, and rational. Emotions, doubt, and softness, not for him. A woman must be nurturing, passive, and gentle. Assertiveness, ambition, and logic, not her nature. And so an imbalance arises. A whole part of us gets denied, as if it were dangerous. And yet, it's often in that denied part where your greatest growth lies. Take Steve Jobs, a visionary entrepreneur, relentless leader, and sharp strategist. But few realize how profoundly his inner development was shaped by India, meditation, silence, and introspection. All of these are manifestations of the Anima, the intuitive, inward-facing force. That's what allowed him not just to build businesses, but to feel the future and blend technology with art. Or consider Frida Kahlo. Her work is filled not only with emotion and physical pain, but also fierce determination, bold protest, and structured expression. Her animus emerged through her ability to endure suffering and transform it into symbols, canvases, and clear identity. She didn't just feel, she gave her feelings a frame, a voice, a shape. Her internal balance made her unforgettable. But what happens when someone rejects their inner counterpart? A man who suppresses his anima becomes emotionally numb. He can succeed externally, but remain empty inside. His decisions are mechanical, his relationships shallow, his heart armored. He may fear attachment, avoid depth, or feel ashamed of vulnerability. His world becomes black and white. A woman who denies her animus loses her sense of inner power. She hesitates to express her will, doubts her authority, and often seeks validation outside of herself. Her structure becomes soft, her emotions chaotic, her direction unclear. She drifts, unable to say what she wants, afraid to claim space. Jung believed, the person who integrates both sides becomes whole. Not just successful or happy, but truly whole. This doesn't mean becoming everything to everyone. It means learning to be in touch with all the parts of yourself, knowing when to act and when to feel, when to listen to instinct and when to analyze, to be both depth and direction. How can you begin this inner integration? First, acknowledge what you've rejected. For men, acknowledge the need to feel, to pause, to be understood. For women, recognize the power to assert, to lead, to think with clarity. Second, observe your reactions. When you overreact, maybe you're avoiding softness. When you can't say no, perhaps you're afraid of seeming harsh. In these moments, you can often find the parts of yourself that were exiled. Third, develop the parts that have gone quiet. For men, this might mean cultivating empathy, creative expression, reflective practices, and bodily awareness. For women, it might involve building boundaries, learning strategy, speaking decisions aloud without guilt. Not because you should, but because those are parts of you waiting to be remembered. And finally, stop being ashamed of your inner fullness. Every human being carries both masculine and feminine energies. Their union isn't weakness, it's power, not destruction of self, but its expansion. What if the person you think you are is just a story told by the voice of fear? You've grown used to the idea that you are your thoughts, that you are your memories, your desires, your past. You are someone with a name, a profession, a personality, a story. But what if that's just the surface? What if who you think you are is not a rock, but a mirror, one that reflects back only what you've been told to see? Carl Jung, along with many mystics and deep thinkers, arrived at a liberating and terrifying truth. The self is not fixed. It is not a thing. It is a process, a movement, a becoming. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. Look at an old photo of yourself. You looked different. You thought differently. You loved differently. That version of you is gone. So who are you now? And who will you be a year from now? Jung called the true self, the complete, total being that exists beyond the ego. The ego is not you. It's just a tool, a filter, a mask, a lens through which you interpret the world. But you are not the lens. You are the light passing through it. Real freedom begins with the realization. You are not your roles. You are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. All of them come and go. You are not a form. You are the space in which forms arise. So why do we suffer? Why do we feel anxious, lost, guilty, unworthy? Because we've become attached to an image. We've believed the ego's narrative. We've wrapped ourselves in labels, identities, and illusions, and we cling to them as if they were real. We wear our names, our wounds, our successes like armor. But armor doesn't protect. It isolates. And as long as you cling to a false version of yourself, you can't step into a real life. True transformation begins when you surrender, when you stop defending your personality and allow yourself to become what you've never been. This is not a collapse, it's a birth. This is not destruction, it's return. Jung said the path of individuation isn't about becoming your best self like modern pop psychology claims. It's not about polishing your image. It's about wholeness, not perfection. It's about truth, not appearances. It's about integrating both light and darkness. It's dancing with your shadow, not defeating it. It's listening to your pain, not numbing it. It's letting go of trying to be someone, and finally allowing yourself to just be. You are no longer a slave to your patterns, no longer a puppet of external voices, no longer a reflection. You are the source. But to reach this place, you must do one last thing. Let go of control. Control is fear. Trust is strength. Open yourself to the unknown. Don't hide behind labels, diagnoses, ideologies, or self-images. Don't be afraid to get lost, because that's how you will be found. You don't have to be anyone in particular. You can be real. You can be alive. You can be whole, without conditions. If something in this story spoke to you, drop a comment below. Which part hit you the hardest? What did you see in your own shadow? What truth did you uncover? I read every message, and remember, you are not alone on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More stories are coming. Stories that don't just entertain, but transform. See you in the next dive.